Hey everybody, watch this review here with a look at the Marvel Legends Series 4 Elektra. Now, I was originally going to be reviewing, I think it was Captain America, the Ultimate version tonight, but long story short, I misplaced him. You know how these things are. Occasionally when the holidays come around, you just randomly misplace stuff. Okay, so she stands about 6.5 inches tall, making her a little bit taller than first appearance Spider-Man, but not by a considerable amount. She comes with a few accessories, the 2 swords, this cool looking Dojo thing here, and a case for her 2 sais, which both are removable, and make a cool display piece. Now, you can of course attach this into the top of the Dojo, but I don't want to. I think it looks better this way, and the Dojo can pop up on your wall. And as you've probably noticed, the Dojo has 2 little spots here, so it's actually a base. Originally wasn't going to open this figure, or was like half debating on it just because it looks pretty decent in packaging. But I really need the space because I'm running out of just stuff that I want to hang around. I'm going to run through the articulation first, just because, I don't know, just before I get into the actual details and criticisms and so forth. Some of my joints are loose. I don't know if it's going to be like this on all of them, but we have a moving head that will do a full 360 rotation, but impeded by hair. Head also moves up and down a considerable amount. I hate that joint, by the way. Fingers will move, which allows her to grasp her numerous weapons. Unfortunately, the thumb will occasionally get in the way, but as you can see, she makes a pretty cool fist right here, so definite plus. Now the wrist will move back and forth. The forearm rotates, double joint at the elbow. Now, she has a rotating bicep here, and then a rotating bicep at the top, which is completely redundant, and I'll get into that later. Looks like she has a floating shoulder, but she might not. In addition to that, it's just your standard ball joint. Will do basically everything, but impeded by hair. My ab/diaphragm joint is completely busted. I don't know if this is the case for everybody, so it'll flop a bit and won't stay well if it's pushed too far forward. Waist joint, full 360 rotation. And she has a rather unique leg joint here. It's a split hip for a full 360 rotation. And then along the side, you also have this thing pops out kind of like the DC figures do for the DC Universe Classics, except for they keep it all straight up at the hip. It's a nice infusion of like the classic older action figures where they'd typically go for the V-split for the female sculpt's legs, except for this also allows the leg to swing out. Up at the thigh, it'll rotate. Double jointed knee. Then calf will rotate. A lot of movement here down at the ankle. And then the toe moves. Now, what actually impresses me a little bit is the fact that the character is well balanced enough that she even stands on felt, which a lot of characters don't do for some reason, but general criticisms. First and foremost, I completely hate what they did with the arms. I mean, actually, I think this is probably one of the better looking Toy Biz female sculpts, but really that doesn't say much because I don't think Toy Biz really did a tremendous work with their female sculpts, but this looks completely ugly on a female figure. Now, it's also redundant because, as you can see, you already have the movement here, and this movement is well concealed, so I don't know why they decided to pop the additional point up there, just whether they thought some people might not like this, or I don't know. But I'm not digging the ball joint up here, obviously. I also have never been a big fan of the visible joint here, just because it really detracts from the aesthetic of the figure. I do like how they did the split hip, but when you pose her like kicking out and stuff, it doesn't look really great. But when she's just standing there, it's a much nicer choice than going with a very visible ball joint. Or even to a lesser extent, the kinds of joints that the Hasbro female figures did end up using. I'm actually a little bit surprised by the amount of articulation they managed to squeeze in here and still make it just work so well. As you can see, there's a peg hole in the back, so you can also attach the sais back here, but you're gonna have to deal with the hair, so pick your poison. And the sais actually do attach in this direction too. Or actually, no, wait. Sorry. Silly me, that's actually for the katanas. So yeah, you have a pretty cool weapon holster, which can fit 4 different weapons in it. How awesome is that? By the way, you know, Elektra's kind of the best of both worlds here. She's like Raphael and Raphael and Leonardo tossed into one. Okay looking face sculpt. Reminds me a little bit of Angelina Jolie, who, you know, they should have tapped to play Elektra in the movies instead of Jennifer frickin' Garner. I mean, what's up with that? But, you know, pretty decent hair. As you can see, a good amount of detail. It's a soft, rubbery plastic or so forth. Same material that's used for the bandana slash headband or whatever, which connects directly into the head and isn't removable. It's got the same feel. A little bit of bleed around the edges, but not much. This, of course, can be flipped around if you so wish it, but really no point. She does not look great from the side just because you can see the gap here with the joint. However, she's one of the very, very few figures with a half-decent butt. Because Toy Biz just notoriously screwed up on the posteriors for a lot of the figures, like the Psylocke, where you have a disconnect between the, I guess, where they had the ball joint for the leg and the butt, but this one's a half-decent one, and it is wearing a thong, so I don't think I could show it on YouTube, but people who own this have gotten a peek, you know. There is a bit of plastic here. I don't even remember how I accidentally did that, but I'm not a pervert here, folks. Let's see. There's no real divide between the costume and the flesh here, so it's an obvious paint on. A decent bust line. A little bit of fabric between the breasts there. I'm not sure how well developed her abs were. I always thought that she was more muscular, but I don't know. And of course, they do have some half-decent highlights with the black here for paint color variation, because it is very plain other than that. Although the coloration for the flesh tones does vary in points where it's lighter than others. Also, this is incredibly ugly, but there's a little bit of flash just on the outside there. And of course, actually, the face is maybe a tone or two softer than the flesh over here, which isn't as dark as around the legs down here, so I'm not sure what the deal with that is. As I said before, really nice looking face sculpt. And of course, the peg will allow you to use the jumping attacks with the other stance. All in all, very good figure. It's probably so far my favorite Toy Biz female sculpt, which again, not saying a tremendous amount. I mean, the only other, I guess, Toy Biz female sculpt that's really impressed me so far has been the X-23. By the way, this doesn't actually stand very well, so beginning to rethink whether or not it was intended to go in there, but get some decent poses like sword draws and so forth, which makes it pretty cool. All in all, I'd say that this figures might be worth picking up, fan of Elektra or not, just because it is a pretty decent figure with a good amount of articulation, but I mean, it's got some production errors, obviously, and some of the joints might not necessarily appeal to some people because of the high degree of visibility, but the fists are definitely impressive. It's one of the better features. The split leg is interesting, and the amount of accessories is just pretty awesome. Plus, of course, there are little peg holes all along the top of this thing, like over here, here, and here, so you can actually pose her on top of that. So that's just another level of display. So yeah, till next time.